Hello, you beautiful ass motherfuckers. I am Queen Eileen, your glorious, fearless, beautiful leader, an absolute icon of the XPDLA. For the seventh season in a row, we've been new. So today we're just doing power rankings for Flare Division for season 7. So yeah, as you can tell, I'm kind of biased just off of like what you can see on the screen right now. I'm just gonna make this very clear. I did this all on my own, so yeah. I'm probably incredibly biased. I did this in like maybe what 5 hours, I think. So that's fun. I spent like from like 9 o'clock until like now, and it's like 3 a.m. So I'm kind of tired, but we're gonna roll through it anyways because I don't think this will upload if I try and do this at any other time today. So let's fucking do it. So at number 12, we have Mythlo and the Salad Sage and Chinos. So the first thing you notice, those first four Pokemon plus like Zarude and Metagross are like really, really good Pokemon. Like Spectre plus Zapdos Galar is fantastic. That can literally just win games on its own, in my opinion, if you do not prep well for it. I also think the defense on this team is just overall really solid and helps support Spectre and Zapdos Galar pretty nicely with Slowking Galar and Florges in particular. And then Lander's Therian is the physical sponge and also just another good physical attacker. It really helps the team a lot. This team has some really nice momentum as well, in my opinion. But that's really all I have to say positively about this team. Like, first of all, I do not like the hazard control at all on this team. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Landorus and Metagross aren't the worst stealth rockers in the world, but they're not particularly preferable to run rocks on, if that makes any sense. And then it's kind of the same case with the defoggers, especially like it's really just Florges who will reliably run defog, and that's only because Florges doesn't really run any other moves anyways. So yeah, that's my issue there. And then also I feel like fucking ghost types absolutely destroy this team. Like your slow resist is Zarude, who's a good resist to be fair, but I don't understand the double psychic and double ghost. Rotom, I like considering there's other Rotom forms available, you can probably easily get a different Rotom form like Rotom Frost or Rotom Fan, and that would probably help your team out so much more. Considering it's more bulky, gives you a more reliable remover, and like the speed tier issue is not even a problem considering Lander's Therian is literally the exact same speed, so yeah, grab a different Rotom form. And I also think Alomomola on this team is kind of redundant. I know you have like this little region core with like Slowking and Alomomola, but what's the point of it when you have Florges, who like basically does the exact same thing plus the fog benefits? Also, just think Alomomola really stops the momentum on this team so much because of how easy it is to just set up on. Like Florges, I guess it's pretty easy to set up on too, but like Florges is at least a fairy type, and like it really just works well on this team with Landorus, in my opinion, more than Olomola does at least. Um, yeah. So if you go all the way down here, you can see I have this stuff. So yeah, pretty self-explanatory. I don't really want to go into this stuff, but I'll just show them here for a quick second and then move on. So next we have Cameron Robb in the Massachusetts Monkey Masters. He does not have a logo, so he just gets the league logo right here. Um, right off the bat, you can see him like a Mawile and Deoxys defense, which is insane in my opinion. Probably not as good as like Porygon 2, but it's still really fucking good. Like, and Deoxys gets like the benefits of having rock, spikes, and being able to run an item. So like that really just makes it such a good Pokemon for this team, in my opinion. It's one of the few teams where I like actually like Deoxys defense. And like the offense in general is just kind of crazy, although it is very, very physically reliant, with the only special breaker being Thunder Asterion. I guess you can run special Komodo, but like I feel like you'd have to do that real super often with this type of team, which kind of hurts its versatility. Hazard setting is really good. That's what I will say. I do not like the removal on this team at all, though. Just because it's like reliant on Serena, and that also hurts its versatility a lot, considering Thunders is not like running it at all. And then the bulky water is Barraskewda, which makes absolutely no sense to me. There's no rain to help Barraskewda, and it's just like the speed tier Pokemon of this team. Like it's supposed to like fill the speed tier of 136, have the fast Pokemon other than Thundurus. It just doesn't feel useful on this team. Outside of that, like you can probably get any other water type. You can get Greninja or something, or you can get Crawdon and then a different fast Pokemon. And I feel like that'll help a lot considering you don't have a dark type either. I will say what I like about this team is that it does not have any type weaknesses, which is really nice. And then the bulk is just absolutely perfect. Well, not perfect, but like, it's really good in my opinion with Deoxys and Chansey. And then Komodo is fairly bulky as well. So yeah, that's really all I have to say. You can look at this stuff down here. And I will move on to number 10. These are going to go pretty quickly, I feel. So, yeah. Next up, we have Sprite and the Pictu Porygons. Pictu? Is that how you pronounce it? Pictu? I'm going to say Pictu. You can see it's a sand team. I'm not personally much of a weather person myself. It's a good sand team in my opinion for like what it is. Like I mean Mew just feels nice on this team in my opinion. And the team has pretty much most of the stuff it needs. I think it needs like another remover, but other than that, it's a pretty okay sand team. But like naturally because it's a sand team, it's extremely ground weak. And yeah, the only real resists are Pidgeot and Leafeon, who are not super reliable, so that kind of makes a strong ground type kind of difficult for your team. I also feel like it kind of forces Mew to into defensive role a lot just because of how offensively oriented this team is especially compared to their last season team, which was like a lot bulkier and more balanced. Here, a lot of bulk relies on like Mew and Tyranitar, which is like they're good Pokemon. I just don't think they should be the sole Pokemon to do that job. And then Float Eternal, I don't think Float Eternal really fits on this team that well personally because it just takes a lot of damage between Light of Ruin recoil and the sand, and also just like I think this team would prefer a bulkier fairy personally than Float Eternal. It can take hits on the special side, but like not that well. So yeah, here you can just look at this stuff now. I don't really have much else to say. I mean, the hazards are great too, obviously. Like it's a sand team. You can't really expect nothing less out of a sand team, considering you basically have two free rockers every time, and then plus Mew and Infernape are also pretty good in my opinion. Yeah, let's move on to Sid the Science Kid and his Gabalion Cucks. First of all, this logo is Chef's Kiss. If I wasn't picking seriously, this would probably be the best logo, but I'm biased, so yeah, right off the bat, I'm kind of terrified of his defensive core. Toxapex Porygon 2, and then he got a round 6 Corviknight, which is insane in my opinion. Those three are incredibly difficult to break. I don't know how one breaks all three of those. That is insane. And the offense is also really good. The speed tiers are like damn near perfect. I have a couple issues with this team though. And there's a reason why it's number 9 instead of maybe like I don't know something higher than that. Like you can see like it has 5 defoggers, But then you realize four of those defoggers are fucking Tapu Koko, Latios, Landorus, and Blaziken, which forces Corviknight to be the main defogger, and that kind of hurts its versatility quite a bit, in my opinion. Like, I mean, Tapu Koko can run it if it really wants to, but the other three just don't like running it at all, especially Latios and Landorus, in my opinion. And then the hazards, you basically just have Toxic Spikes from Toxapex, and you have fucking Landorus Incarnate, which is garbage, in my opinion. And then you also have Rampardos. I think the biggest issue I have with this team, though, is probably the fact that you have zero rock resist. Because your steel type is Corviknight, your ground type is fucking Landorus. I don't know why it's Landorus. There's so many other ground types you can pick other than Landorus, but like it's Landorus, I guess. And then your fighting type was Blaziken. These two are pretty good mons individually, and I like them on this team. But Lander, you should get at least one rock resist. Come on, you're not even weak to rock, but like outside of like Weavile, but like rock resist would help this team so much more. It would also give you a more reliable rocker, and just would help your team out more in the long run, in my opinion. Just get rid of Landorus, basically, and this team would be fine. I think Landorus is just complete dead weight on this team. Also, the low tiers are kind of questionable, but like that's a whole different circus. That's really all I have to say, though. Like the offense is really good, though. Like you have Tapu Koko and Latios and Weavile, which is really good. And I guess Landers is okay offensively, but I don't like it on this team. You can probably get a different ground type that's just as good offensively, and you'd probably be fine. And yeah, that's really all I have to say. You can look at this stuff now. Very cute. So next we have Sickbed. I think from here, like the top 8 teams are pretty fucking good. They could just use, like, especially like 8 to 6 could use some ever so slight improvements to help the team out a little bit more. And you could kind of seem to say the same for number 9 too. Like it's really just Landers that kind of holds the team back so much, but that's besides the point. Dragapult, Rillaboom, and Mega Medicham is fucking insane. It's kind of busted almost, if you will. And then like your defense is insane as well. You have Heatran, Blissey, Gliscor. It's Legacy Gliscor to be fair, but still, that's still a Gliscor. It's still super fat. You also have Vaporeon, Weezing and Stunfisk, which are fantastic. I think every Pokemon minus the Zweilous has a good use on this team. It can probably come to a good amount of games. Like, I know you have double ground with Stunfisk, but like Stunfisk is an electric type, and it's a really consistent electric type at that. So I think I think it fits still, regardless. The hazard setting is really fucking good. I have nothing against the hazard setting. And the removal, even though it's only just Gliscor and Weezing, those are both really good defoggers. My only issue with that, though, is that it might force Gliscor to like be the hazard control bot of the team, depending on how often you want to run the fog on Weezing. But it works. It's probably fine. I think the main weakness, though, is that your dark type is Zweilous. And that kind of leaves your only real good Ghost Resist as Blissey, who's a good Ghost Resist at that, but like, considering that Dragapult and Mega Medicham are your main offensive pieces outside of Rillaboom, it might make those types a little bit difficult to break. It's just I think you should get a better dark type for sure. Zweilous just I feel doesn't have a purpose on this team. Like even in 1 point, I'm up, even like down like 1 and 2 points. I can imagine you can find like a Volibee or something that's available. That would probably be a whole lot better and like actually bringable. And then really the last point I have is that outside of like these big three and then maybe Heatran as well, it's a pretty passive team. Like, I mean, Weezing, Gliscor, Heatran can kind of do damage, but like Gliscor and Weezing don't do a whole lot. And then Blissey, Vaporeon, Stunfisk are all pretty fucking passive. but like that's a minor issue compared to the fact that your dark type is wireless. Other than that, it's a really good team in my opinion. It just could use a slight improvement. Okay, next we have Smeargle and the Chicago Blackhawks. I probably butchered that pronunciation. It's probably Chicago Blackhawks, but we'll ignore that for now. For one, someone actually drafted Bishop, but like not as a solo steal. Thank God. Bishop as a solo steal is like horrible, but it works on here. I actually like it on here a lot because it just gives you a strong physical breaker outside of the galley, which is really nice since you kind of lack that otherwise. I mean, and just these top 8 are really good, but I just really hate the bottom 3. um, Hazard's really fucking good. The removal sucks. Why is your only remover Thunderous? I do not know. It makes absolutely zero sense to me why your only remover is Thunderous, who's not even reliable at that. So, like, you can just hazard stack and win against this team if you really want to. This team also struggles a lot with Bolt Beam, I feel. Like, I mean, the individual resists to electric and ice are good. Like, for electric, you have Zygarde and you have Roserade, and then for ice, you have Primarina and Miltank and Bisharp, which are pretty good. Torracat, I guess, too, for an okay low tier fire. I don't think low tier fires are like ever good, but like, I digress. I think the issue mostly comes from the fact that both of your electric resists are ice weak, which really hurts your team, in my opinion, considering your steel type is also electric weak and your electric type is ice weak. So it really just isn't the best situation in terms of Bolt Beam. I feel like a strong special attacking electric type, like maybe Thunder's Therian, could destroy this team pretty quickly with the right tools. Other than that, pretty good team. I don't really have much else to say on this team. It's good. It also could just use slight improvements. Like I said, like for the millionth time. But anyways. Next up, we have Hero and the Baltimore Blastoise. This guy won Bolt last season, and he just got promoted up here, so that's really nice. I probably should have mentioned the guy in 11th was the Flare champion. Yeah, this guy drafts pretty controversial, but like he makes it work. Usually, I'm basing it off of the teams themselves and not like the players. Like, I'm just trying to be as objective as possible. Except for myself, but we'll get to that later. Can we take a moment talk about the hazard control on this team? It's just so fucking strong to me. It just works so nicely. I really like it. And then, like, any team that has Mega Aerodactyl is good, in my opinion. I will say there is a slight issue I have. I just noticed this now, but there's triple flying, which is, I mean, it's fine considering one of them is Murkrow, but it does make you pretty ice weak. You have good resist though, so I think you'll probably be fine in that for the most part. Your team is also really bulky. I really like Aromatisse on this team. For me personally, Aromatisse has been pretty fucking cursed on my teams and has caused me horrible losing streaks, but on this team, I feel like it could work considering I'm not the one using it, first of all, and second of all, Empoleon and Rotapete love Wish, and so does Deoxys to some degree. Deoxys speed is just really nice on this team for the hazard stack for Mega Arrow, and then Shaman. I think outside of the ice weakness issue, your ghost resists are pretty frail, which can make a strong ghost type really not fun for you, considering your dark type is Murkrow and you don't have a ghost type to actually kill other ghost types offensively. So watch out for ghost types for sure. And then the last thing I really have to say is that, do I have anything else to say actually? I think that's all I have to say, honestly. Just P tiers. I think this B tiers could be improved on for sure. Like there's a gap from Mega Aerodactyl to Shaman and Salamence. If you can, try and get something like in the 110s for sure, just to like fill that gap a little bit. Because otherwise, some super fast Pokemon are not going to be fun for you. Okay, we're moving into the top 5. I think these top 5 are really good teams and could use little to no improvement at all. So we have Dilly, who has the Colorado Mammothswine. I think she has a team that suits her really well, but that's not really what I'm trying to get at here. I think our Shifu single on top of Feeny is kind of really good on this team because just so our Shifu doesn't get burned and like paralyzed, it helps it a lot, I think. And Kyurem as the dragon is a nice addition so it doesn't make your team like get hurt from the misty terrain. And then like the offensive core between our Shifu, Zeraora, and Kyurem is top notch in my opinion. Probably one of the best offensive cores in the league at the moment. And then what else do I have to say? I think the hazard control in general could be improved slightly considering you only have 2 of each thing and it's just like rocks into fog and nothing else. But that's not a huge issue considering your hazard setters are pretty reliable. I think your removal is really the bigger issue. But it's not the worst. Oh, I put the fog on Venusaur, I think. Oops, let me just move that. There we go. And then speed tiers. We have a couple random speed gaps that I think could possibly be patched. But other than that, pretty good team, I think. Ooh, Lord. P. McGee with the Idaho Iggly buffs are, I don't like this team. That's because I'm fighting at week 1. And I'm not gonna go too in depth on this team because of that. But the hazard control, look at this. Do you see this? I think every Pokemon has, with the exception of Pyukumuku, has a slot filled, and Licky Licky, I guess. But other than that, literally everything has a slot filled on this, which is insane. Zapdos, Mega Deoncé, insane. Nidoking, really fucking good. I really like the Silvally on this team considering it fills in a lot of holes that this team would otherwise have. And one of my biggest things I don't like about this team is Pyukumuku is the solo water. I know how he really likes Pyukumuku, but I don't think it works that well as a solo water personally, just because like not especially on this team, considering like it kind of forces Chestnut to resist a lot of certain types on its own, unless you actually like bring the Pyukumuku to a lot of games. But like Pyukumuku is also just a complete passive fuck. So like it's basically free setup for like a strong water type with good coverage. And yeah, I think that's really the only big issue I have with the team though. Like offensively and defensively, it's really solid. I think it makes a really good use of the low tiers as well. I like Honchkrow and Smeargle a lot, and Licky Licky is also good, even though it's not really a low tier anymore. But like it's still a really solid Pokemon. I think that's all I have to say for this team. Yeah, we're going to my team now. I can explain why I put this team in third real quick. Because like I just really like my team. I'm biased. I don't think it really has any significant flaws. I mean, none of the teams in the top 5 do, but like I think mine has less flaws than the ones in 5 and 4 at least. Like the big flaws that I saw with my team are the fact that like Raichu and Carbink are my flying resists, which isn't the best, but I can probably make do with it because of how bulky my team is. I'm not really weak to flying as is, and also this core. Can we just talk about this core for a second? It's fucking stupid as hell. I'm amazed that I got it. And Nido and like these other 4 in the middle are also really good and work really nicely around it. It's just a really nice top heavy team that has like an actually usable low tier low tier duo. I think the other thing I wanted to point out is that Keldeo is my solo water, which is not the greatest, but I'm probably okay with it. Because Keldeo is somewhat bulky. I mean, 91, 90, 90 bulk is not the worst, and I have a couple Wish Passers in Clefable and Latias as well. That's really all I have to say about my team. I'm not gonna go super in depth on it just because it's my own team. Let's move on to number 2, where we have Here We Stand and the Dragonstone Dialgas. So, I don't think this team has much flaws at all. This is one of the best teams in the league. These two are like probably tied for me, but if I had to pick one, I would pick the number 1 team over it personally, just because Klefki. I like Klefki on this team. Do not get me wrong. Klefki is amazing support for this team. However, I don't like it as a solo steal and a solo fairy. I think another steal on this team would help this team a lot, personally. Um, just because like it's the only flying resist, which kind of like hurts the defensive core a little bit, considering the main defensive piece on this team is Tangrowth alongside Suicune. Uh, what else did I have to say? Oh yeah. Dragon damage is really strong against this team for the most part, especially if it has coverage for the Klefki. Considering Klefki is not very bulky. It just, I think we should get another steal for sure. Like, even if it's not like the strongest steal in the world, just like get one for the sake of getting one, so Klefki is not all on its own. But like outside of that, it's a really good team. I think the removal, not the best, but it works well enough. I put these a little. Wait, no, I didn't. And then the hazards, they're pretty okay as well. They work for the most part. I think these three, and plus Tangrowth and Suicune, are the main stars of the team, though. They just work so nicely together, in my opinion. And you can just make them work every time. And with that, let's move on to the number 1 team, which is Tides and the Sunset Solrox. I don't really have any particular issues with this team aside from like a slight ice weakness. It's not even a bad ice weakness. It's like you don't like your team is so bulky that like you can probably take them on just fine. Your offensive options are pretty good for it as well. The issue I have with the ice types though is like Rotom Wash and Salazzle are your resist, which makes your team a little bit freeze dry weak. But outside of that, it's a really, really nice team. Like, it suits him really well too, considering he's drafted Pokemon he uses a lot. But that's not, obviously, that's not what power rankings are for. But regardless, I mean, Rotom Wash is nice for this team, and like, because it's just such a nice flex pick for this team, and it's so versatile for this team. The offense here is great with Mega Lopunny, Hydreigon, Lycanroc, Decidueye, Salazzle, like Gallus if that counts. Chimecho was a really nice low tier pick for this team, considering it lacked a psychic type otherwise, and like it's also another Defogger, which, speaking of the hazard control, Chef's Kiss. This is way too strong of hazard options in my opinion. Like, okay, this isn't the most amazing in terms of like actual hazards, but like it works nicely. Skarmory's like a perfect hazard setter anyways, and like you have enough removal, so like it can consistently run hazards, and it's good removal at that in my opinion. So, and then the defense is also just insane. Skarmory, Sylveon, and then Mudsdale. And then you can also have Rotom Wash and Decidueye's flex picks, which is just, it's really good in my opinion. I don't see any particular flaws other than the ice type issue. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about Flare this season. I think everyone with like a couple exceptions drafted really well and could just use slight improvements to make their teams work. I think really it's just like the bottom team, and maybe this one in number 11 that could use major improvements, but Other than that, it's a pretty good drafting time this season. Everyone in this season is actually returning. So like we have a really strong setup for Flair this season. I'm super excited. Thank you all for watching. Bye bye.